Hello and welcome to the European Parliament in Strasbourg for this new edition of Talking Europe. Can Super Mario save Italy and the Eurozone? The appointment of Mario Monti at the head of a non-political interim government in Italy has been met with relief. The former EU Commissioner is highly respected by his European peers, but this week Italian bond yields remained alarmingly high. So can a government of technocrats restore Italy's credibility on the markets? Will it be able to pass the reforms the country badly needs? My guest will soon join me on this set and we'll discuss these questions. Also, don't miss the second part of our programme. We'll bring you an interview with Nikiforos Diamandouros, the EU's ombudsman. His name was recently floated as a potential successor to former Greek Prime Minister George Papandreou. But as always, let's start on our set here at the European Parliament in Strasbourg this weekend. Now, Berlusconi is out, Monti is in, but will it make a difference? One thing is sure, the former EU Commissioner will have the daunting task of trying to tame a debt of 1.9 trillion euros. That's more than Spain, Portugal, Greece and Ireland combined. The markets remain very jittery this week, with Italian bond yields remaining at an alarming level. But we'll see with my guest whether Mr. Monti can make a difference and restore the credibility Italy badly needs. Let me start to my left with you, Gianni Vattimo. Hello. We all know you as a famous Italian philosopher, but you're also an MEP here, a member of the Alliance of Liberals and Democrats. At home, you belong to Italia dei Valori, which is a centre-left party. Thank you for being with us on this set. Sven Giegold, you're also a bit of a philosopher, but I think you're more of an economist, and you're a member of the Committee on Economic and Monetary Affairs. You're a German MEP from the group of the Greens. Always a pleasure to have you with us. And I'd like to start with a very simple question that everybody's asking at the moment. Can Mr. Monti make a difference?
Of course, I think that he makes a difference. First of all, because he's not Berlusconi. We used to think, and in good part it was true, that the problem for Italy was the very image of Berlusconi.
He had certainly become a liability in the eyes of his partners.
But in many senses it was a problem also for the Italian inner political life, because it was a factor which was not homogeneous with the other political forces. There was the so-called interest conflict between his private image as a capitalist and his public image, and so this
his
was
media empire, Mediaset, and his
so in many
political
senses,
life.
this is where the reputation of a single person can count very
make a
deeply.
difference. Mr. Giegold, in Germany, how is Mr. Monti perceived? Is there a sense of relief?
Well, there's certainly a sense of relief. Most Germans were very unhappy with Mr. Berlusconi. They couldn't understand how a person like this could have been re-elected several times. So I think everybody is, I can share what my colleague said, people were happy that he's out. And now Mr. Monti, I think most Germans don't really know Mr. Monti. He's known to people who follow economic press, but he's not a public figure in Germany. But I think everybody wishes him well.
Okay. Now, there is, of course, an underlying question. A lot of people wanted him out, including Italians, but we get the feeling that it's not only the markets who, in a way, provoked this crisis. It was also provoked by France and Germany. Clearly, France and Germany had lost faith in Mr. Berlusconi. Is it acceptable that the French and the Germans interfere in Italian politics?
Well, in a sense, as I am an anti-Berlusconian,
you're grateful.
I am grateful to them, and I don't know how far this goes. I mean, is it real that we are so deeply dominated by France and Germany? We don't feel that very much. Of course, the image is so when Sarkozy and Merkel smile.
You're referring to that press conference.
To the press conference. It is not nice for us, but I never suffered it as an Italian. I liked it as an anti-Berlusconian, so why not?
What is your feeling regarding this, what some have called interference from Merkel and Sarkozy? Would you go as far?
Well, I think this personalizing is not really the key of what happened during these last 2 weeks. What happened was that Italy became more and more dependent on the ECB buying Italian bonds. If the ECB wouldn't have bought these bonds, Italy would now be bankrupt. So, and had lost access to the capital markets. As the fund we created on the European level was not big enough to rescue Italy,
the
EFSF is not big enough, there was still a dependence between the ECB, headed by an Italian, and the existence of the stability of the Italian government. And therefore, Berlusconi played with the ECB. So he said he will do reforms. The ECB said, okay, we continue purchasing bonds. There was this famous letter by the ECB with conditions, some of them good, some of them outrageous, to Italy, how Italy has to change so that the purchasing of the bonds goes on. And this is the real question of democracy. I think Merkel had no direct power, who is in government in Italy, but over the power of the ECB, there was an influence, which is formally independent and no democratic body. So the real democratic question in Europe is, from my point of view, is it the ECB to run economic policy in Europe? And I think no. And therefore we need strong institutions which are democratically accountable to run economic policy rather than giving that to the ECB.
This is exactly, in many senses, Europe is governed by a sort of technocratic government, which is ECB, like we are now in Italy, governed by Monti, who is a technician. So that there is a loss of democratic vitality, because if all Europe depends on the ECB politics, and this politics is not directed by an economic, political European power, this is.
But given the misgivings of all of the European institutions, what is your position? Do you think that the ECB is right? It should keep on buying Italian bonds? Because we know that there is a big argument between France and Germany.
What I would like to have are European bonds, but European bonds can be instituted only if there is a common governance of the economy in Europe. And now we just have a monetary institution, but not an economic minister of finance and so on.
So you want Eurobonds? We know that Angela Merkel is very reluctant to the idea of Eurobonds.
Well, and also your party friends from Germany are the most violent adversaries in Germany.
The liberals.
And, yes, the liberals, and that's a big problem.
Don't consider me a liberal.
Well, you are in the same group, and the point is, the problem here is that as German government vetoed the Eurobonds since more than a year ago, now they forced basically the ECB to intervene, because if the ECB wouldn't have done that, which is against the spirit of the treaty, if they wouldn't have done it, then the euro would have already been collapsing. So the irony is, because Germany did veto the Eurobonds a year ago, which we have demanding, which lots of people, the majority in the European Parliament has been demanding. Now the ECB is forced to buy, and therefore we put into question the credibility of the ECB, which is a huge problem. And I think that Germany basically, the German government made a big mistake
and shot itself in the foot.
And according to its own values, to separate monetary and fiscal policy. Now we have a mixture of the two in a non-democratic structure.
By the way, just a little correction. The Liberal Democrat group in Europe is directed by Mr. Verhofstadt, who is strongly for the Eurobonds.
Former Belgian Prime Minister.
And when you vote about the issue, you are always divided. And perhaps you should join the Green Group. There you have a more clear position.
We will reshape the European Parliament here on our set. But before we continue our conversation, I would like to have a look at our next report. Who is exactly Super Mario? Mario Monti, our reporter.
He's been nicknamed Super Mario for his intellectual rigour and record as European Commissioner. Now, many are hoping Mario Monti can apply the same rigour to help get Italy out of economic crisis. The 68-year-old hails from the same part of Italy as Silvio Berlusconi, but the two could not be more different. While Berlusconi's reign has been plagued by sex scandals, public gaffes, political infighting and allegations of corruption, Monti has a reputation as being a hard-working technocrat who hates party politics.
Well, I think Mario Monti is the person that the markets are waiting for. He's a former EU commissioner. He's been dealing with competition policy. He's internationally respected. He's a very good economist. I think it will bring stability.
Monti has had a long career in academia that continues to this day as head of Bocconi University in Milan. In 1994, he was appointed to the European Commission by Berlusconi. During his tenure there, he gained the respect of many, both inside and outside Italy, who considered him a talented economist and gifted policymaker. Viewed as a safe pair of hands, he could be just what Italy needs, after weeks in which it's come under intensive scrutiny over its ability to get its colossal €1.9 trillion debt under control.
Gianni Vattimo, as we saw, Mr. Monti is a technocrat, he's a rigorous man. He announced far-reaching reforms on Thursday. Austerity, obviously. Austerity, as always. Do you think that Italians are ready to accept these reforms? Will they endorse his austerity plans?
Well, having seen how Italians have tolerated Berlusconi till now, probably they're ready for everything. I mean, I am even a little bit worried about a sort of passivity and resignation which characterizes Italian society. I don't expect, I don't wish a strong social crisis, but this would be, I would like a little bit more vitality of the civil society in Italy, because otherwise it is negative also for Monti if there is no participation of the people in the measures.
He's very popular, according to the polls.
He's popular, yes.
7 out of 10 Italians support and believe in him.
By the way, if you ask Italians if they want Monti today, everybody will say yes, because they know where they are coming from. So, okay. But I don't know. I want to see. It's just a matter of time, next 2-3 weeks, in order to see what happens with
once the reform starts
yes.
biting in. Mr. Giegold, as an economist, what is wrong with Italy? Obviously, it's debt 1.9 trillion euros. When you look at the deficit, it's 3.6. That's very acceptable. When you look at the network of SMEs, small and medium companies in enterprises in Italy, it's very vibrant. How can Italy boost its stagnant growth? What should it do?
I think Italy has a political problem, not an economic problem. Obviously, Italy, with its specialization, was more vulnerable towards global competition than, for instance, Germany. But Italy has also a great position with great products. So I think if Italy does some reforms, and if they manage to include the people in building these reforms, and this will only be possible if they are seen as socially just. If they manage to do this, they can get out of the mess. So Italy could already solve its public debt problems by really getting tough on tax evasion and tax avoidance. If they would really put resources into this, and Europe would help by cracking down tax havens, Italy would have a surplus budget without problems. So therefore, Italy needs some reforms. They have to be democratic and that just, and I think then Mario Monti has a big chance. What he should be very careful just imposing a program and say that's our great program, because then he will not take people with him and there will be big demonstrations, and one will see this, what you were indicating, that many people were accepting Berlusconi despite his things, because he has left them in peace. He didn't bother them with reforms. Now the reforms must come, and there you need democracy.
The worry, though, is that the markets remain very jittery. When you look at Italian bond yields, they remain at an alarming high level, 7%. Why is it that the markets are still so jittery?
Well, it is not really clear how much the markets are going to appreciate or not Monti, because we are just at the first days. I have the impression, to come back to the Italian economic crisis, that one thing Monti has to do is to try to increase the inner consumption. So, in a sense of increase salaries, for instance. We are the lowest, almost
but that would
lowest
further
salaries.
increase the debt.
See, but the problem is just how long can we go on trying to export if we don't consume inside, in Italy? So this is a real problem. There is a depression of the inner consumption, which prevents us from a quicker development, I think. Probably.
What do you think about that?
I think one has to be very careful. You see, you are having a trade deficit, and in a trade deficit doesn't suggest that that there should be now a general push in wages. On the other hand, I think you need two things. So one needs more exports, and on the other hand, you have to make sure that the inequalities don't get even larger. And then, so this is a more differentiated approach than generally calling for higher wages in a situation when you have a competitiveness problem.
And very briefly on the bond yields, do you think that the markets will be reassured?
The question is, when Monti is performing, then the markets will calm down. If he gets problems with Berlusconi and the majority in the population and in the parliament, then I guarantee you that that this will not hold on for long.
And then, of course, we'll have to meet again, because what will be the question, how do we bail out Italy? You were saying that the EFSF is not strong enough. Then there will be questions about the role of the ECB as well, I guess. But for today, thank you very much indeed for taking part in this edition of Talking Europe. Please stay with us on France 24. We'll return after the news break and we'll bring you a close-up interview with Nikophoros Diamandouros. He's the EU's ombudsman. His name was recently floated as a potential successor to the former Greek Prime Minister George Papandreou. That's in about 10 minutes, so please stay with us.